Okay, we're gonna jump in. Many of you here are waiting to hear from Mike Scoggin. Where's Mike? Oh, there he is. Okay, good. I thought our speaker ran off. Uh, yeah, he's at the bar, of course. Mike, of course, well known to everyone. He's one of us. Uh, but Mike, I asked him to come here not just to talk about current senior housing, but also future senior housing trends. Many of you have been reading or listening some of the rumblings about senior housing, what's going to happen with it, how do we meet the kind of the middle income where there's not a lot of things that have been going on. What are some of the new things going on? So Mike, I know, has brought a crystal ball so that he can answer every question you've got about senior housing. Oh, wait, no, it's a bowling ball, not a crystal ball. But he will still be able to answer every question that you've got. I know he's done a ton of research, so hope you enjoy it. By the way, the community has asked us if you're not actively eating or drinking, please keep your mask on. They have done such an amazing job during the pandemic. They've not had a single outbreak. So congratulations to San and his team for doing that. So they've asked us to continue to, and we do want to respect that, of course. Some of you may know the pandemic is not done. In fact, there's a new strain going across the world. So definitely keep safe during the holidays when you go around. Mike, over to you.
Thanks, Wesley. Okay. How much leash do I have?
That's it.
That's it.
You can move that a little bit. Yeah.
Kind of like over more here. I could stand in front, I thought. Hi, I'm Mike Scoggin. I'm with Oasis Senior Advisors, placement agency. Thank you. Yeah, I brought my sister and my cousins here. So. Placement agency, I help people explore and transition into different kinds of senior communities. We're going to talk a lot about different types of communities because it's a pretty complex landscape when you look at it. So this is, well, my service is a free service because compensated by the community with a finder's fee when my client moves in. So we're going to get on to kind of a big overview of senior living, senior housing. And do I give you like a signal? Here we go. We're going to start off with what I call a paradigm shift in pretty much global culture. Pretty much what humans are doing lately is that, good news, we're living longer. Medical technology, there's better lifestyles, there's a lot more knowledge about diet and exercise. And so in general, people are living longer. The silver tsunami is not just the baby boomers. It's kind of going to be a thing where people are around the planet longer. In 1960, so men and women, and you've probably seen these before because they're kind of classic from the Census Bureau. But you can see in 1960, it was kind of a bit of a pyramid. As you get older, so this is younger to older, then the population drops off. There's always more women. And then in 2060, so about 40 years or so from now, it's going to be much more of a stack. And it's, the real interesting thing is that in 2034, there's going to be more seniors than kids, right? So there's more people over 65 than under 18. And it's going to keep that trend going, which is interesting from a lot of different, not just cultural, but certainly financial aspects, people paying into Social Security versus people that are drawing on it. So there's different kinds of things that are going on that are different than they were when we were, well, when our grandparents and great-grandparents were alive. So let's go on to the next. This gives you an idea from a historical standpoint, the way things used to go for our grandparents, great-grandparents. Typically, you've got, one of the spouses passes away, the other spouse moves in with the kids. And that's fine because mom's going to take care of babysitting and maybe help out with the housework here and there. And then when that doesn't work anymore, then they go to the old folks home, right? And I'm sure some of your grandparents went there. And the old folks home was kind of on the road out, and no one had any real expectations of any kind of activity or, thriving. It's just where you go when you're on that last leg. Um, so the retirement homes, and of course, these are the terms we hear most often, nursing homes. Okay, now, nursing homes is really a bit of a contradiction in terms, because when you go to a senior facility, a senior community, you're getting your non-medical cares taken care of, the existence, the activities of daily living, but it's not nursing. So when you go to a skilled nursing facility, that's where you get nursing procedures, you're doing rehab, you're doing all these type of things. When you're recovering from surgery, you're getting therapy, physical, occupational therapy, and you've got different kind of medical procedures and techniques going on. That's a skilled nursing facility. So I'm kind of leading this campaign single-handedly to not call them nursing homes anymore, because it's misleading. It's confusing. So no more nursing homes. You're either going to a residential facility or you're temporarily going to skilled nursing. And of course, we'll kind of touch on it, but there are too many people living in skilled nursing facilities that don't need any medical procedures, and that's a different presentation. And that's something that Deirdre touched on. And anyway, Deirdre and I work closely together on things. We're going to the next one. Here we go. I'm just going to kind of give you the broad view. We're going to start off with early retirement. You just sold the house, you're retired. Where are you going to go? Well, there's the traditional major senior communities like Del Webb. Leisure World is more in Southern California. Trilogy is kind of new on the scene. This is Shea Holmes people. Rossmore is in Walnut Creek. I'm sure you guys have heard of. This has got like 30,000 residents. Del Webb is, they're just building a new one out in the Central Valley. So there's a lot of new stuff going on. Right down the street here in San Jose is the Villages, which is still like probably 20,000 residents, give or take. The biggest retirement communities in Florida, it's called the Villages also, and it's got 9 golf courses, right? And so Florida is definitely the retirement destination when people are, in the early stages and just leaving the house. Here's the newcomer on the team. We like Jimmy Buffett, right? So he figures, okay, let's address this silver tsunami and make some money on it. This is Margaritaville. They've got one in Florida and one in South Carolina, and I think there's another one in the works. And it's very much this tropical resort kind of a situation. The other new player is Disney. They're getting into communities, and they're not targeting seniors per se, but they're going to build communities that have families, but over here is a senior section. And so it's a interesting, the different ways the different players are getting in to address the demand, the housing demand. So a lot of different things going on, but there is still, new construction going on. So the the resorts and all those options on the last one. This is where you sell your house and you're going to buy one of these condos or a villa. A lot of times they're duplexes, but then these independent senior livings, they are communities that come with meals and services. So the ones where you're going to Del Webb and Rossmore, you're on your own. And of course, there's housekeepers that come over and there's caregivers that come over. It has nothing to do with the community. Here, the community says, oh no, we are going to provide these services, meals, transportation, activities, entertainment. And so they, a lot of them like to say, oh, we're cruise ships on land. But now there's another option. And most of them are month to month, but there are some that are purchase, okay? If you're going to purchase your condo and you got meals and services, you can go to San Mateo Versailles and Palo Alto's, the Hamilton, these are very classically decorated, and they're appealing to the higher demographic as far as the wealthier. And so kind of more exclusive, but you're going to buy a condo. It's an apartment, and so it's a real estate transaction. So you have to take care of property taxes. You got to pay the real estate agent. You have to have property insurance even, and so you've got to keep an eye on. Oh, and by the way, when you don't live there anymore, somebody has to sell that condo. Okay, and they it doesn't necessarily, the community doesn't do much to step in and help out. They'll help if they can. Here's the really new thing. This has only been about last 10 years or so. Cruise lines are embracing retirement people, and you can like buy a residence. Well, it's a long-term lease. Typically, they're going to be a year. Some of them are two. The longest lease I saw was like 4 years. You can get your own stateroom on the one cruise ship. Is she okay? Okay, you're okay. So you can stay on the same ship and you cruise the world. You're all these different stops, and it's a continual. Once you finish that world cruise, you start the next one, because it takes about a year and a half to do the whole planet. So there's kind of interesting things, and it's the websites say they start at like 4,000 a month. Looks like more like 7 or 8, and of course it depends on the size of your stateroom and if it's on the water or not. But still, there's a lot of people that kind of like the idea, can sell the house, and I can just go travel forever. And you get meals and services. You don't need much transportation. Month-to-month rental. So there's no leases. And here's some the local places. The Avant we were at the other day at where's Hollander? Chateau Cupertino is independent. Villa Serena and Warburton are both in Santa Clara, and these are pretty well established. They've got typically the residents there in their 70s. You've got people that come in their mid 70s. They're there until their 80s, and they're fine. A lot of people even spend, because the nice thing about an independent living community, there's no caregivers on the staff, so the apartment prices are more reasonable. You can get a nice studio apartment at most of these, well, not the Avant, at most of these other 3 places for like under $3,000. And that includes all your meals, services, transportation, entertainment, the whole thing, all your living expenses for less than $3,000 a month. Killer deal. Now, we're going to talk about the assisted living in a minute. People that live in all these communities, probably about half of them have caregivers coming to their apartments. Now, how does that work? Well, the caregivers don't belong. They're not on the staff. They're third-party caregivers. So they are typically caregivers that are already there taking care of multiple apartments. And so you get a much better rate than you get with a normal in-home care company. So it's I know Kevin's got people over here in Chateau Cupertino, and you give them a better rate than you do for the house down the street, right? Anyway, so you can get assisted living in an independent community and save a bunch of money, because the exact same apartment, the exact same care, if you go to assisted living, you're paying about 50% more a month. It's and of course, once you get to advanced care, if you need overnight care, it doesn't really work anymore. But you could still have the caregiver coming over like 3 times a day to an independent community, and it's still much cheaper. Okay, go on. Now we'll talk about assisted living places. And here's some examples. Oh, I just happened to pick Oakmont San Jose. Yeah. There he is. Okay, so this is the same view you're looking at right there. And now these are all month-to-month rentals. There are no leases, and this is pretty typical for any kind of a senior community, because for senior communities, you're not really sure how long that senior is really going to be there. And so you don't really want to lock anybody into a lease because it gets complicated. So pretty much anything that's an assisted living community, and really most of the independent senior communities, they're month to month. The leases is really like the cruise ship bit and the other, the retirement communities, the big ones. So these also include all meals, all services, and there's, most of them, most assisted living have a secure memory care unit. Okay, now there is one, Roxanne's Place, that there's dementia residents that they take care of in Bridgepoint. And it's a great community and it's really no problem. But once a resident becomes so disoriented that they need to go home and they're headed for the front door. So that is, not every person with dementia has that. You don't always develop that. But once you get that disoriented and you start, wandering out the front door into someone else's apartment, then it becomes a little more difficult. Then you need to go into a secure memory care unit. So some communities don't have secure memory care. Most of them do. And here's Susan's place, which is a really nice picture, isn't it? Okay, so that's assisted living. And of course, with assisted living, all the caregivers are on the staff. These are licensed caregivers and they're trained, and it really is the best place to get very consistent care and higher levels of care in general. So, and we're very fortunate to have some great high quality communities right here in the area. So they're continuum care retirement communities. How many people know what a CCRC is? Okay, so this is a special flavor of assisted living community, and by virtue of the name, they're trying to provide the whole spectrum of care. They want residents to move in when they're independent, mobile, healthy, and then they're going to take care of that resident forever until the end, because they include assisted living, they've got memory care, and they almost always have skilled nursing on the same campus. So they're larger campuses in general. And so places like Saratoga, so this is like about 250, 300 residents, and Forum is more like 400. And then Channing is up there about 225. So they're larger campuses because they're including all these facilities. And it's a very reassuring thing that people feel like, okay, no matter what happens to me, no matter where my health goes, I can always stay in the same community. And that's what they play to. But what they do at that point is they say, we want to get a buy-in fee. Okay, so most, not all, because there's a CCRC in San Jose, the Lincoln Glen, that really doesn't have a buy-in fee, but then they don't have the same kind of financial picture. And this is where things get really complicated, because every community has multiple financial plans, and each community has different kinds of multiple financial plans. So this is where my job becomes very helpful, because I know the communities, I know how to interpret the different options here. And the buy-in fee, we're talking about for a typical one-bedroom apartment, it's about $500,000. And that's plus or minus depending on where you go. And it's, and you think, oh, for $500,000, I am buying my condo. It's a real estate, that's a lot of money. No, you're giving them the chunk of money. Just give it to them. Well, what if I want a refund? Oh, you can get a refund. All you have to do is give us more money. And then when you give us more money, we'll give you like a 50% refund. Well, 50%, how much? Well, you have to give us, instead of 500, give us 800,000, then you get 400 back. Oh, well, I want to get more than that. Oh, that's fine. Give us like 1.1, 1.2, you can get 80% back. That's terraces. So there's different, and then this is, that works fine for some people, because depending on your circumstances, depending on the house you just sold to get in there, you've got a chunk of money. And the reason that is attractive to people is because of this assurance that you've got everything on campus and that someone is responsible to take care of your whole well-being. But there's one other thing, and not all of them offer it, but if it's a nonprofit, a lot of these CCRCs are nonprofit organizations, not for profit. they have a fund set up. It's the benevolence guarantee or residency guarantee. So that means that if a resident moves in and is, well, you have to qualify to move in too. In order to get this whole package, you have to not just physically qualify, but you have to financially qualify. They run you through a major financial analysis. And so once you financially qualify, and if you don't run out of money by any fault of your own, like you're not giving $500,000 to your nephew for a startup, or you're online gambling, or jewelry shopping, then if you run out of money, they don't kick you out. That's the residency guarantee. And it is something that's very attractive to people because, certainly life is uncertain. We don't know down the line what's going to happen and how much money we're going to have. So that's why the buy-in fees can work out for a lot of people. And it's, like I said, it's more complicated, and I'm happy to give you more of a rundown because there's a lot of different variables there, but it's an option. I mentioned the forum. It's one of the only CCRCs that I'm aware of that's also a purchase property. And this is, again, it's like the independent places. Most of the purchase places are independent living. This is a purchase condo. And I don't know of a purchase residence for an assisted living, but they're independent, you can purchase. And then the forums, the CCRC, you can purchase. And this place is, again, they're catering to the wealthier clientele. And they're, one of their condos is over $1 million now. The cheapest one might be 1.1. But actually, it might have taken a dip with the recent real estate stuff. I'd have to check with my real estate people. So, again, you can buy the condo, but when you move out, like you move from your independent condo to their assisted living building, which is fine, well, you're still kind of, financially obligated for that condo, and you're paying for assisted living. And so somebody has to quickly sell that condo in order to help take care of your finances. And that can be problematic too. And there's a lot of family members are kind of tweaked about having to take care of things when mom moves into assisted living. Anyway, these are lots of different ins and outs. We're going to go on. So there's some specialized communities that every resident has dementia. And these typically are the best places for people with dementia because all the staff is really well geared for that, very well trained, but the programs and the activities are all targeting that dementia mindset and the capability, and there's different levels, different tiers, and there's a lot of the memory care units, you don't have that much variety. Kind of, here's your memory program, but if you have a larger community like these, everybody's got dementia, then there's multiple programs to address the different levels of dementia, which is a significant thing. It's not like a switch that goes on and off. It's a very gradual disease. I'm sure you guys know that. So here's some local places that, some of my favorites. And Silverado is 17 acres. And so if you have anybody that likes to be outside, this is a great place for memory care for dementia. Kensington is well established. They're very well run. They've got 2 different levels, the 2 different floors, and it's a beautiful community. And so down you're close by in Los Gatos, Cedar Creek is very modest, but they do an awesome job with entertainment and keeping the residents active in music programs and dancing. I danced with a lady at Cedar Creek. It's anyway, these communities have all dementia residents. They're also the most expensive. So monthly rent at a dementia community is the most expensive because you have more caregivers per resident ratio, and that's by design. The residents are always stimulated and occupied during the day. You need caregivers to do that. That's more expensive. So typically, and these are some of the more expensive places, you can get a shared room at Cedar Creek for around $9,000. And that's sharing a room, and there's another bed in the room with you. But in memory care, the residents, you don't spend any time in your bedroom. You go there to nap, change clothes, take a shower, that's it. So And a lot of people in memory care, by the way, families think, oh, I don't want to have my husband living in a shared room. He won't like that. Well, turns out with dementia, they kind of like the familiar aspect of having a buddy, a companion, and somebody that's consistent, and they're good relationships from that, and they usually prefer to be in a shared room than not. So it's something that's kind of counterintuitive, but it the communities will usually help you with that. Okay, here we go. These are the most prevalent board and care homes, residential care homes, 6 beds, and in Santa Clara County, there's about 250, and they're all over, right? San Jose has about 120 of those, San Jose proper. So, and you can drive by, you'll never know unless you see a ramp going up to the front door, or there might be. You can look at the front door and see the signs for wearing a mask and things like that. These are the places that most of the residents have dementia, and that's because they are not going to benefit from the programs you can have in an assisted living community like this with entertainment and activities. They don't know how to relate to that anymore, and so board and care is a little more laid back. It's the nice thing about board and care really is a home, a house, and you become family members with the other residents, and that is a comforting thing for a lot of people. And some people would rather go into a home environment than to a big bustling community. It really just depends on your preference. So there's a hazard. You go to a board and care, and if you're not, well, it's not very stimulating. So anybody that needs stimulation or activity, this isn't the right place, because you don't have a lot of other residents that are interactive, that are going to be talkative. And so since most of them have dementia, I'm saying like more than 50%, then if you're interactive, you're not really going to have great conversations with people with dementia. And sometimes this is where people go when they're on hospice, and we really are at the very end. You don't need to be in a community to be on hospice because you're bedbound sometimes. And so it's a pretty good formula, because the nice thing about a board and care, you get the highest ratio of care. It's 6 residents during the day. There's 2 caregivers. Okay, so that's a 3-to-1 ratio that you don't even get in the memory care, and you definitely don't get that at a skilled nursing facility or anything like that. This is the great situation to get a high level of care. 6 residents, you always have caregiver nearby within earshot. It's just a house, and so this works very well for a lot of people for different reasons. So. Most of them are 6 residents, because you take a house and you put the shared room in the master bedroom, and then you can have the 3 kids rooms. Those have 1 senior each, and then you just have to add 1 more bedroom on where the back porch is, or somewhere to get the 6th resident into a private room. So it's 4 privates, 1 shared room. That's the boilerplate. That's very, very common. There are places like Blended Family in Cupertino, where they've kind of got a overblown, somebody overbuilt the house so they can accommodate 12 residents. And I think there is only 1 shared room in the whole place. So it's, you've got in Sunnyvale on Magnolia, anyway, it's called Magnolia. They've got 21 residents, and these are more like apartments, but because they all have half baths, right? And so the shower is down the hall. So all the residents take a shower down the hall, but they also are getting accompanied down the hall. So by virtue of them having a room, like a bedroom with a half bath and the shower down the hall, I consider them more of a residential care home than I do an assisted living community. Although the nice thing about the peninsula, they do have a lot of great classes and entertainment and exercise classes and activities. So there are different options there as well, that depending on the seniors' level of engagement and what they're able to do and what they like doing, there's different ways to skin the cat. Now, so everything we've been talking about is in private pay. So there has to be income, there's got to be savings, there's got to be contributions from family members, where you sell the house. And so that's fine. And usually, if you can sell a house in Silicon Valley, you're doing okay. Although you can't just, completely relax if you're going to pay $10,000 a month for memory care. But anyway, there are some people who don't have a house to sell, and they don't have a retirement income 401k plan or a pension, or there are people that are just getting by on Social Security. When my phone rings, about half the time, it's people that don't have wherewithal. And partly it's because I'm a free service and I'm going to help everybody. But it is because it's a very common thing in this area. People that live in this area can't afford the private pay in this area. So what happens when you're low income? Well, we get into government subsidized housing, which has been around forever. But it's just because it's been around forever doesn't mean it really works well. And I'll kind of get there. But so all the different housing programs, of course, housing is a huge issue in California and around other places in the country because of homelessness. And there's a large percentage, I don't have the number, large percentage of the homeless are seniors. They're over 55, they're over 60. People that, just didn't plan well and just are out in the streets. So homelessness is a big problem, and it's getting good focus right now, I think, with the state government. I think Newsom's doing a decent job. It's a huge problem, so you can't really say that, you can't judge somebody on trying to push this boulder up the hill. Oh, you're not moving very fast there. But anyway, so there are good things happening. There's low-income housing that's being built. There was a low-income housing, senior low-income housing built in Los Gatos about a month ago. And this is where the different cities are stepping up because of mandates from the state. They have requirements. They have minimums for affordable housing that they have to produce in their cities. So this is a good thing. Who would have thought there'd be low-income housing in Los Gatos? But there is. There's, lots of places in San Jose, and there's scattered around the whole Bay Area. There are low-income housing. San Francisco is the best. They have tons of new low-income housing being built and developed. And Berkeley and Oakland are 2 and 3. So that's where the cities are just really stepping up there to help the problem. Of course, San Francisco has got a bigger homeless problem than most places. I think it's because the panhandlers really make out there. The tourists are going by, oh yeah, well, if I'm homeless, I'm going to San Francisco. Anyway, so the interesting thing though, in order to get the low-income subsidized housing, everybody's heard of Section 8, right? So anybody know what Section 202 is? It's Section 8, but it's targeting the elderly. It's for seniors. And so this is all federal programs, but not every government subsidized housing is federal. It's state, it's county, it's city, just like I was talking about. Sometimes it's just a charitable organization, like, the Catholic Charities isn't really doing it. So anyway, there are charitable organizations that are establishing low-income housing and running it, but they always check to make sure you're not making too much money. They want to make sure that they're only giving the housing to the people that are neediest. So you can't make too much money in your income, but a lot of them say, well, yeah, you have to make some money. So the best places have a sliding scale, and they'll take 30% of your income. That's maybe 15, 20% of all the low-income housing. They'll do a sliding scale. Most of them, they say, no, you have to have at least $800 a month. That's not bad. Some of them are more like 12, 1400. And then, this is just independent living, right? So even if you can afford the rent with your income, you still got to buy food. Well, there's Meals on Wheels. And so a lot of these places, the residents are getting different kinds of food programs that are available. So we call it low income affordable, and a lot of it's called below market rate apartments. These are all kind of the same thing, but different flavors. And they're all independent living, these different kinds of categories, but there really aren't any services or meals. There's every now and then they've got meal plans, and there are some nicer places. San Jose, the Valley Village is a great place for meals and some services. The really tough thing is low income for assisted living. And this is a dilemma that affects Northern California more than Southern California. Well, I'm going to kind of get into that in a minute, but if you're low income and you need care, then you can get in-home supportive services, and this is in-home caregivers that are supported or they're organized by the county. It's a state program, and as long as you can qualify for Medi-Cal, they typically want to know that you applied for Medi-Cal. As long as you applied for Medi-Cal, you didn't get automatically rejected. Okay, then we can send a caregiver to your home, wherever you live, as long as it's safe. And so it could be your house, it could be one of these low-income places. As long as it's a safe place, you can get in-home care coming. But I heard that it's pretty much only up to 4 hours a day, and it is, they're spread really thin. So sometimes you have to negotiate to even the 4 hours. And everything in low income is going to be a struggle, right? Because it's high demand, low supply, and the economy is just making it very difficult. And it's always, regular non-medical care, but you can at least get the activities of daily living. So what happens if you really need high level, you need more than 4 hours a day? Well, you have to get Medi-Cal first. And so that means you get Medi-Cal because your income is so low, you can't even make a Medicare payment. So Medi-Cal is for the very low income people. Once you get Medi-Cal, then you have to apply for the Medi-Cal assisted living waiver. It's a separate application process. And here you've got to qualify for that. You have to demonstrate you actually need assisted living before you don't have to do that?
It's not low income, it's low assets. Over 65, they don't care what your income is.
Oh, so Deirdre is the Medi-Cal expert here. I will defer. Absolutely, yes. So in any event, you do have to apply to get the assisted living waiver and demonstrate you need assisted living by the fact you're already paying for assisted living. They want to know, oh, my wife is taking care of me. Well, you got to start paying her so we know that you're actually getting that care. So it's another one of these wormholes. But and how long do you think it takes to get the waiver? Do you know what they're saying now?
The state has added 7,000 new slots, but they're having to dispense them as of the past year. It's at least a 2-year wait, but anybody, whether you're on Medi-Cal or not, can get on that list. But what they're taking first priority is those who are in skilled nursing and are able to go back into the community into the assisted living.
Yeah, and it is another interesting kind of paradox. If you're in skilled nursing or the hospital, you can get on the fast track. So if you apply, but you're not in the hospital, they say, oh, okay, well, you're the 2-year. But so the best thing to do is kind of throw yourself down a staircase, get to the hospital, and then apply. Oh, yeah, the recovery parts. Yeah. So, so any of the participating facilities, you can get 24/7 assisted living there. That's what the design is. Okay, now we get to the punchline. In Santa Clara County, there are 2 facilities that are participating, and Villa Siena isn't taking applications anymore. And there's only 2 in San Mateo County that are participating. One of those is not taking applications. There are none in Santa Cruz or Monterey counties, and I think Alameda might have 5. Anyway, around the Bay Area, there's maybe 20 in Sacramento. You can get out to Fresno and Bakersfield and like 25 or 30. If you go to Los Angeles County, it's like 230. And Orange County is 190 and San Diego is like 200. So if you live in Southern California, you're in much better shape to find. I mean, you still have to apply and wait the 2 years. But once you get the waiver, you still have to find a participating facility that has an open bed that's taking your application. And so if you live in Southern California, you're going to be much easier to find a place than you are here in Northern California. Why is that? I asked Scott at Villa Sienna, he says it's the economy. We have a great economy, and people that have a facility in the Bay Area, they're looking at, hey, I can get government subsidized residence, or I can get these Apple paychecks and Google paychecks and LinkedIn paychecks. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. So it's all the economy that makes it a bad place to be low income and need assisted living. I can find them, but it's really tough. There is one program that started to be the first of the year called CalAIM. Have you heard anything about it, Deidre?
Minimal.
So it's because I get run around. I've called. I've tried to email, and it's a reform program. The state is looking at Medi-Cal and trying to reform it, and it's really addressing the phenomenon where people are living at their homes and they're living alone at their homes and they're not taking their medications. They're not getting the proper water. They're not getting nutritions. Oh, off to the emergency room. I'm dehydrated and I'm off balance. Okay, we fixed you up. Now you're hydrated. Go home again. Oh, they're back there for 3 or 4 weeks. They bounce back to the hospital. It's the readmission rate is huge problem for Medicare, Medi-Cal, everybody. It's driving to the hospital is crazy. He was just in here 3 weeks ago. Why is he back? So they're trying to look at that, but they're saying, well, it's a multi-year program. So don't hold your breath. And I haven't seen any activity to speak of. So there's work efforts, but we'll see how it goes. Andrew. So this is the term that Wesley referred to. What if you can't afford the private pay places, but you don't qualify? You actually have too much and you make too much money for the low income. Then what? Move out of California is one idea. But this is what we call the middle market, the people in the middle that are not either zone. I borrowed this from Medicare, the donut hole, because what do you do? It's a dilemma. But this is where things get a little more creative, and this is kind of the future looking that we're talking about. Something that's been around, and it's really not a new idea, but it's getting more organized, is home sharing. And some people are calling it intergenerational housing, just kind of another flavor. But typically, it's a homeowner, and a lot of times it's a senior, not always, but they've got empty rooms, and they're going to rent a room out to a low-income senior or a middle-income senior, and because they want that resident, that tenant, to help around the house. And it's shopping and cooking, maybe it's laundry, vacuum, stuff like that. But it works pretty well for the independent residents that don't have money, and you can still help out around the house. You can share a house with another person. Sometimes it's a family. Sometimes it's a college student. Anyway, there are different kinds of arrangements for home sharing, and there's organizations that are lining up. They're matching these people, the residents with the homeowners or the people who live in the houses. So you hear a lot about the ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and because of the big pushes for low-income housing, these applications are getting streamlined through the planning departments. So all the cities are saying, yes, build more ADUs. And the more ADUs, so this is a granny flat, it's out in the backyard of the house. So Joe homeowner comes in and says, yeah, I'm thinking about, building this granny flat. Oh yeah, here you go, you're in. And so they don't even care what the homeowner is charging for rent. They can check it off as, okay, we got another ADU, we're adding to our quota here. But typically, the ADUs are going to be, more affordable ways, and you get a little cottage with a bathroom and a kitchenette. And maybe the laundry is shared and things like that. Maybe that resident, well, typically a granny flat is, your mother-in-law, or it's somebody you're related to. But then they are more and more that are renting out to just strangers. And it's a great way to, again, you have to be independent. You got to be able to live on your own, live alone. But it's something that's working right now. A couple of these aren't mainstream, but I'm going to get to the mainstream slide in the last one. But there's things called sustainable retirement communities, not a lot, but they're calling it green senior living, and it's also called eco villages. So here in Santa Clara, I mean, in Santa Clara, this is really close to Valley Fair on Winchester. They're building this agri-hood community, and it's got about an acre and a half of farmland on the campus. And it's got 181 361 homes. 181 of those homes are for affordable senior residents, so low-income seniors. So they are setting this up, and so what's it sustainable? Well, because they're growing their own food, they're trying to say, okay, we are definitely, lowering the carbon footprint, and we're contributing to the community. When you look at the website, they're going to be selling the food to the residents in the farm stand on the community. So it's not like, it's integrated in, but at least it's in a step in the right direction. Now here's a very creative thing that started around 09 in the Netherlands, and it's a dementia village. So everybody in this village has dementia, but they set it up where you've got some multiple acres, and you set up a little town, and everybody's living in the town doing their daily business. They all have dementia, and the other people in the town, the store owners and the mailman and the plumber, these are all on the staff. And this one in Holland, there's twice as many staff as there are residents, and they have constant surveillance to make sure. And of course, it's secure. There's only one way to get in and out of the whole community, and so it's secure, and it's a very comfortable way for people to operate in a familiar environment. And it's getting some great reviews. And so San Diego says, okay, we're going to do it. So in 2018, they had they've got 24 buildings, and 12 of those are storefronts, but they're not residential. They're only doing daycare, but still a great way to take care of the senior community, or the dementia, the memory care. I heard about this recently, but I haven't been able to find it. That dormitories, and it's probably like college dormitories, are being converted to be used for senior living. Has anybody heard about that? Because it's still down the ways, but just another thing that I heard of. Okay, it's like my last slide. We're almost there. So really, the biggest thing for the middle market is co-ops, co-housing. And again, some of this is not new, but it is getting some traction. Right now, here in Mountain View, we've got a co-housing community that's probably been around for like 15 years. And in Santa Cruz, you've got another one. They're both like 19, 20 residents. And it is this co-op environment. Everybody there is having dinner together. They're helping out with chores. There's a roster on chores, and different people sharing this and that. They're all independent, but they're all senior. And it's a kind of a classic model that I think that something is going to work in the long run. And we're actually going to hear more about it from Wesley. And there's something that is a naturally occurring retirement community in Newark. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You get this apartment building, and over time, all the residents become senior, and they kind of stay there. And pretty soon, the whole apartment building becomes seniors, and they start talking together. Hey, you know what? Maybe we should just team up. And so there's nothing planned about it, and they evolve. But it is a thing. It's in 25 different states. And it is definitely it started in New York, pretty much, San Francisco, all the big cities. And they're getting organized. They're teaming up to make it so they're cooperative, they're working with each other. So Norks are pretty big. Oh, and then in Canada, they say, we're going to take that, but we're going to enhance it with a supportive service program, which they're trying to make it more of a formal and make it more planned. So this is kind of global. Everybody's had the same kind of dilemma. Here's one that's called intentional communities. And this is where you share the responsibilities, but you're also sharing property, like assets. And this isn't as common. And you pretty much, when I look at this, I'm thinking commune. And of course, commune is that word back from the 60s that we all are afraid of, but it is a viable model for some people, and it is something that is getting a little more steam. The multi-generational communities, this is where they're definitely trying to make sure it has all ages in there. They want the grandkids and the kids, and everybody is interacting and everybody's helping, and it becomes a really great family scenario that is kind of attractive for a lot of people. So it's and of course they're all about age and place. So the seniors can get help from these family members, whether they're real family members or not, and they don't have to go to any other community. The this one is oh wait a minute, I skipped one here. So inclusive co-living community is a kind of a subset of this multi-generational, but this is a guy that Wesley told me about. His name is Bill Thomas. He's kind of the godfather of co-housing and this whole concept of having people cooperatively live together. And so it's called inclusive and or co-living. And so it's you know, again, a campaign that's getting some more traction. The rotating care residence is not a term, it's something I kind of made up, but there is a concept where you can have a community set up where it's all seniors, and you've got the younger, more independent seniors coming in are going to take care of the older seniors, and the people in the middle are kind of just hanging out. But as you kind of roll on, then the new people are always taking care of the older people, and so it has this rotating or reactivating way to maintain itself. So I haven't really seen that as a thing yet, but it seems like it's something on the horizon, and it's called reciprocal and symbiotic by some people. So it's this last one here is something you hear about tiny homes a lot, and it's kind of a new fad in the last 10 years. It's not really a thing as far as senior communities, because for all intents and purposes, it's like a mobile home park, and so there's not that much difference. You're still living, you know, in a bunch of different units in this same arena, and there's nothing really, no major benefits to it. So that is the spectrum of what you know seems to be out there for senior living right now. And my last slide is a bit of an eye chart, but this is some numbers that you can get from the Genworth site. And these are, you know, real numbers that talk about for adult daycare. So if your senior is just going to the daycare center, then this is for the Bay Area. This is for California, the whole state. And this is for the Bay Area in about 6 years. And so it's gives you an idea of what the different monthly, these are all monthly prices for a 1 bedroom and assisted living like Oakmont. For the Bay Area, average about 63, and California 52, and then it's going to keep marching up, and that's probably doesn't take into account some. I mean, this is from 2001 was the most recent, but the in-home care, which does include light housekeeping and meals and so stuff like that, for 44 hours a week, you can get away with that for like 68. That's about 6 hours a day. If it's in-home, this is just housekeeping and meals. If you actually want the assistance with daily living, then it's more like 71. If you're in a skilled nursing facility, then for a shared room, it's 11. For a private room, it's 14. So kind of gives you an idea of what kind of numbers to expect that we should all be planning for. I include this 24/7 number, which Kevin says, oh no, it actually, I got this from Help and Care this morning, that you can get, so 24/7 care, which means you've got 3 shifts coming, and that's round the clock. They're going to help you at 3 in the morning, getting to the bathroom and so forth. So if you got 24/7, that's going to be $30,000, $30,240. If you have a live-in, you've got a caregiver that moves into your bedroom, and they get 8 hours sleep every night. They get 3 1-hour breaks for their meals and other, miscellaneous breaks. You can have the live-in for a bargain price of $25,000. So that's, if you want to stay home, you're going to be paying for it. But if you want to go to a nice community like Oakmont, saving money. Okay, that's what I got. I would like to hand it over to Wes. Well, questions first. Any questions? Okay, I know you're saturated, so sure. Yeah, just send me email.
No questions?
They want to be done with this.
There's gonna be a test after this,
Yes,
excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, let me talk. I'll share a little bit about project I'm working on, as Mike said, which is actually in collaboration with Bill Thomas. Actually, can you pop up the 2 slides before this? Yeah, that's good. So many of you know Bill Thomas. He's the kind of visionary geriatrician. He's the one that started the whole Eden movement that introduced birds and animals and plants in skilled nursing and memory care. He's the guy that started it over 30 years ago. He's on to kind of new visionary things. And so one of the things he's doing is these multi-generational communities. This is not a book he wrote. It's called Senior Co-Housing, but he wrote the foreword to this one. So if you're interested, let me know. You can read the foreword to this. But I'm working with Dr. Bill Thomas. I've known him for quite a number of years. I brought his show to San Jose some years ago. Those of you who've seen his show, pretty amazing. And what we're trying to do is trying to create a new co-housing model, multi-generational. You saw some of the numbers that Mike put up. They're pretty scary. So when my time comes, where can I go, which is more affordable? What's that? To Mexico, yeah. So I'm actually putting together a little community that's also called community-led development, where about 20 to 30 of us are getting together. And we're thinking 10 years ahead because that's how long it takes to plan for this. I'm already in discussions with city governments on how to do the planning process, the deed process. There's a lot of stuff. I also do real estate on the side, so I have some experience on this. So if there's anything you want to know about this, I'm happy to kind of share some of that. If you want to join our mailing list, you're welcome to join our mailing list on that as well. So that's kind of the senior co-housing. I think it's pretty interesting. It's been around for about 40 years, started in Denmark. Bill Thomas was not the founder of that movement. This other guy called Chuck Durrett, who wrote the book, is kind of the US founder of that movement about 40 years ago. And it's growing. There are quite a number of them in the US. Not many in the Bay Area because land is too expensive. Legally, it's structured like a condo. And essentially people get together, they have meals together, and like a condo, it has an HOA. The difference, of course, in a condo is a few people run the HOA and everyone else complains about the HOA. In the case of co-housing, everybody is in the HOA and you have lots of meetings. If you ever download any videos of co-housing, one of the things you have to put up with is many, many meetings, which could be the definition of torture for some of you guys. But that's how you live together. So anyway, interesting model. I'm planning to kind of, move into one of these myself. That's why I'm kind of in that development process. And it'll be interesting. So in 10 years, I'll be kind of quote unquote retirement age, never plan to retire, but around that age where I think this will be an interesting model. Okay, any other questions for Mike? You explained everything so clearly.
Your time frame for your project is not 10 years?
Yeah, it's about 10 years. I've been working on it, believe it or not, for 2 years already. It's a slow process. You have to plan way in advance. Okay, guys. First of all, we're gonna call up Keith. There he is. We're gonna do a raffle. Thank you very much for the Oakmont for providing it. For those of you who put your business cards in the bag.